Welcome to the Online Success Journey podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey podcast, Patience.
Hello everyone and welcome to Online Success Journey. This is episode 105. Are you ready to join the clan? Today we have Tristan White, the founder and the CEO of the Physio Co unique healthcare business that in 2014 ranked number 1 on the BRWS of Australian 50 best places to work. Also recently published a book called Culture is Everything, which is quickly becoming the number 1 bestseller on Amazon. Hello Tristan.
Hello Patience. So nice to be on your show.
Thank you for coming. I know the clan is anxious to hear your story, so let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my clan a little bit about your background, about what you did before you started your own online business? Take us right up to the last job or business before you are online.
Absolutely. So Patience, an important part of my story is that I'm a qualified physical therapist, and I went to university and then I graduated as a physical therapist, and I had a dream that I would learn my craft as a physical therapist in a large teaching hospital. I would then slowly move into becoming more of a sports therapist, and I would hopefully one day become the owner or a partner in a suburban sports clinic that would also work with elite sports people. And that's where I started my career after school and university, and I started working in a group of private practices as a physical therapist, treating people with injuries, sporting injuries and injuries of sore backs and sore shoulders and sore knees that they'd hurt at work or doing exercise. But Patience, after about 1 year in that first job, I had this huge conflict of my head versus my heart. And my head was telling me that I was headed in the right direction, that my career was where I wanted it to be. But my heart was telling me that I wasn't enjoying what I was doing and that I should consider something else. And in the end, after 1 year, my heart won, and I moved on from that job, and I went looking for something that made me happy. And Patience, what I did was I reflected on the work that I'd been doing and what I enjoyed, and I also reflected on or thought through what were the coming trends in healthcare here in Australia. And what I came up with was something I did not expect, and that was that I actually loved working with older people, and I loved the idea that I could help someone be more mobile, safe and happy and improve their quality of life. So I started working with in a small, old and a little bit smelly nursing home in Melbourne, and I just loved it. But I tell you what, Patience, I didn't tell anyone else at that time because I was so embarrassed. I'd told as many people as I could that the sexy part of the physical therapy industry of sports therapy was where I was going to work, and now I was working in this old nursing home with older people, which is much less glamorous in the work. But I love that job, and over the next 13 years, Patience, which is a very long time, it's gone from just myself working in aged care, and I've grown significantly, and we now have more than 100 physical therapists that work in our organisation, and together we're helping seniors stay mobile, safe and happy, and we'll deliver more than 200,000 consultations to Australian seniors this year.
Why did you get embarrassed?
I was embarrassed because from the outside, working in aged care is not often seen by others as an attractive or respectable job. That's how I felt at the time, and a lot of my mates who they just did not respect the idea of working with elderly people, and now I certainly do, and now I'm very proudly shout from rooftops that I work in aged care and that I love elderly people. But I was embarrassed at the time because I didn't think it was a respectable job.
When you went after work, when you went back home with your parents, or I don't know if you had a partner by then, when you told them about your day, how did it make you feel?
When I told them, so very good question, Patience. If I went out with some mates and they asked me about my day, sometimes I would not answer their questions in much detail. I would sort of say, yep, it was fine, no problems. But with people who I could trust and I could really tell them the detail of the day, I would tell them the stories about the elderly person called George who was struggling to do his exercises, and I was helping him to become stronger on his feet and be able to walk further so that he could walk with his wife Mavis. And telling those stories made me feel so proud and such a rewarding job. So when I did get to tell the stories about the work I was doing, I felt fantastic.
How did you then later on overcome that embarrassment?
Look, patience, I think the only thing that I feel like I could do, and that was engage in my new job and my new career as much as possible. And I think, and patience, I think just to go back to your last question as well, I don't think it was my own perceived interpretation of how other people thought of my job, as opposed to perhaps what they actually did say. And so when I did get more comfortable with the idea myself of working in aged care, because perhaps I had a challenge with that myself for a start, then as I moved on, become more comfortable with the work I was doing, I was enjoying it. It was very rewarding. I loved the work. I loved the people that I was working with, and I loved the outcomes that I was able to achieve with some of the clients. When those things started to happen, I personally became more comfortable with talking about it, and I continued to move on. And patients, over that first year, that first job that I spoke of a smelly old nursing home. That was only a 12-hour per week job. And then I got speaking to the manager of that aged care home, and she said, Tristan, you should go and speak to Yvonne, who is a manager of another nursing home. And I went there and I started then I started working at another nursing home. And within 1 year, I was working at about half a dozen aged care facilities, and I had more work than I could possibly do myself. And that's when I started asking for help. And what I mean by that is employing other physical therapists. And by this stage, I was really loving the work, embracing people that also wanted to work in aged care. I was recruiting for and only employing people that had a obvious passion to work with older people. And I think it just took a little bit of time for me to become a bit more comfortable with my newfound career.
Okay, I like the way you described it as the smelly nursing home. I can't get over it. Oh, the nursing home, sometimes when you go into it, they are smelly. But you chose to go there. You chose to work with old people. Was it because of money? Was it because you wanted to find your own like a niche or your own stand, your own platform? What made you choose that to go to work with the older people?
Look, patience, it's my reflection on my first job when I was working in sports practice was I was in a small treatment room, a small consulting room like you would go to see a GP or a medical specialist. And every 20 or 30 minutes, I would have a new client coming in during that first year. And this was a real learning from me. And I might have been a very naive young physical therapist to not understand this in the first place. But every 20 or 30 minutes, I had a new person coming in who were relatively, usually in a negative frame of mind. They were grumpy, they were upset, and the reason was that they were injured and they were not happy with their physical function and they wanted to get better. And I did not appreciate or cope well with the negativity of the people that were coming into the room every 20 or 30 minutes, at up to 20 new patients every single day. And I didn't enjoy or appreciate that conversation I was having all the time. And so I reflected on whether I wanted to do this for the next 10 or 20 years, and the answer was no. And so then I reflected on the work I'd done with other types of people, and whether it was children in paediatrics or the workplace health, or was it elderly people. And the answer was I got much greater engagement with my clients, and I felt that there was a much more greater connection, and I would feel more satisfied. And my clients also seemed to be much more appreciative of the work that I was doing when I worked with older people. So it was a way that I could use my skills, but do it in a way that made me feel useful and valued as well.
Okay. When you started hiring your team to work with old people, did you have a challenge? Because some of I don't know what type of the age limit you are hiring. Did you have a challenge of getting staff to say, oh, I don't want to go to that nursing home. I don't want to go and work with that community people. They are too smelly. Or, yeah, I'm very sorry. Yes, it's a truth, but sometimes things can go a bit differently. So did you have any challenges?
Yeah, absolutely, I did. Patients, and so it wasn't difficult to get a physiotherapist or physical therapist to apply for the jobs, but it was a challenge for me to filter through the hiring process and ensure that I had people that genuinely wanted to work with older people, and would look past the physical environment of the work to be able to engage with the individual people themselves to get the right outcomes. And so the answer is yes. There were times when it took longer than I'd hoped to find the right person who was interested and committed to working with older people. But it's in my approach to hiring, a maybe needs to be a no. And I mean, if you've got a feeling or there's a reason why this person may not work out when hiring, then I think you need to respectfully part company with that person and keep looking for someone until you feel that they genuinely will work out well in a role. So the short answer to your question is yes, it has been difficult, but by being committed to finding people that do share the same values and the same purpose of working with older people has found us with a very strong team that we've been able to grow over a long period of time.
Do you mind sharing, like, if somebody is out there and thinking, okay, I am looking for work, I can't find any work, what tip or what advice would you give this person who's looking to go and work with the older people?
The advice that I'd give to people that are working with older people is to ensure that you remember and remind yourself every single day with every single person that this is a real person who was once much younger and much more able and mobile and contributed to the community and contributed to the world in a way that may not be obvious right now when they're older and possibly a bit more frail and unable to move or communicate as well as they used to do. And I think it's important that we connect as people in a really respectful way, and that if we realise that we're working with older people who were once younger, and we also remember that we too will be older in the future, I think that's an important way to connect as people, as opposed to just thinking that it's a job working in an older person's home.
Yes, that's where we are all heading. So thank you for your answer. Let's put man aside, because you had already worked in sports, and then after that you changed your mind, you moved on to helping the older people. How did you know your business was successful?
Well, that's a very good question, Patience. I think so. Someone once told me that the most important job of a business owner is to stay in business, because there are so many businesses that don't continue and don't succeed. And I think that once we got past the 5-year mark, where we'd been in business for 5 years, and we had a team of about 20 people, and we were treating and consulting, delivering about 40,000 consultations to Australian seniors. If there was ever a time when I think that we had got to a point where we were sustainable and hopefully a business that could do something useful in the world, I think it probably was around that 5 year. But by the same token, Patience, I'm not sure that I would ever say that we're a complete success. It's a journey to doing something great in the world, and as long as I continue to lead the business, so we stay in business to employ people and create meaningful work and also continue to help elder people, then as long as we continue to do that, then I think that I'll feel like we are a success.
Don't you think you're a success when you went there, before you started employing this staff, and you went to work there and you met Marjorie or you met Mary or Bob or John, and then you did your work, and then you are like, oh, thank you so much, and then you see them the next week they are walking. Don't you call that successful, Tristan?
Patience, of course I do. It's the success of actually engaging with individual people, and there is a very strong memory I have of a very early client of mine whose name was George, and actually, Patience, all these years on, because we have a larger business now, we have a central support office where we do our administration and hiring and training, and two of the rooms in in that support office are named after very early clients that I personally worked with in the early days of our business. And we do have a room which is named after George, and we do have a room named after an early client which is similar to a name that you just used, and that's Marjorie. And because those people are very important people that I engage with, which helped us get the very early successes. So you make a very good point. Is I spoke about the business, but the success comes from the interactions and the help that we do with the individual people every single day.
Okay. You've been in the business now for a long time. Can anyone be an entrepreneur, or are some people more cut out for it than others?
I think so. I think some people are more cut out than others. By the same token, I have no doubt that most of the skills that I now have and that I continue to build as an entrepreneur learned and are learned. But I think possibly the two skills that will help people to get started and stay the course are probably the skills of resilience and persistence, because there is so many ups and downs and challenges as an entrepreneur. And if a person is willing to bounce back from challenges and by being by showing resilience and by being persistent to move forward and figure out their solutions, then I think with those two qualities, then most people can forge a successful career as an entrepreneur.
What reassurance or encouragement have we got for my members of a clan who are not quite there yet?
So I also learned a long time ago, Patience, that the best way to learn to run a business is to run a business. And so I encourage people to do some planning and do their and certainly plan their entrepreneurial journey, but I encourage them to jump in and start selling something, a service, a product, whatever it might be, and learning by interacting with customers and interacting with suppliers and actually doing something, as opposed to planning or thinking that one day they will start a business. And I'm not saying you have to dive in completely and quit your day job. There are ways to have a side hustle to try things, but my real encouragement to entrepreneurs who want to try this entrepreneurial journey is to give it a go, get involved. And as Seth Godin would probably famously say, he says you need to ship, meaning you need to sell things and before you actually can learn and grow.
Before you started your own business, did you ever have any mentors or coaches, or you went in for it? How did you manage?
Yes. So, Patience, I didn't really have many mentors before I started the business, but I've been very fortunate to have a long-term mentor by the name of Ben. And when I first started the business, I discovered this business planning competition. It was a small competition for businesses or entrepreneurs who had an idea and wanted to build a business plan. And I applied to that competition, and I was matched up with a mentor, and his name was Ben Hosking. And Ben and I met with Ben once a week, and he helped me to build out this business plan as part of this competition that we're in. And over the next 3 months, I went to Ben's house once a week, and he was he was a semi-retired accountant, and Ben really helped me with that business plan. And then Ben helped me for a while, and then I sort of parted company with Ben as I continued to build the business over the next few years. But interestingly, I hit a bit of a speed bump a few years into running our business, and I reconnected with Ben, and probably for the last 8 or 9 years, Ben has been a regular mentor of mine who I work with on a weekly and monthly basis. And so the answer to your question, I've got some long-term mentors, and I also engage with other people along the way to get the help that I do need.
What is the most valuable thing your mentor has told you?
One of the mentors, not Ben, but one of the mentors that I had along the way, when I was describing some challenges to him and what challenges I was dealing with and what the options were to deal with them, he very bluntly said to me, he said, "Tristan, is the problem looking at you in the mirror?" Meaning, was I the problem as opposed to other people being the problem? And in that specific example, we worked through it and we made some decisions as to whether it was something that I needed to change myself or whether it was something I needed to change within the business. But that moment really does resonate with me, because whenever there's a challenge, I need to decide whether it's a challenge that only I perceive or that I'm contributing to, or whether it's something that is external that I need to work through as well. But just being reflective enough to understand that the entrepreneur themselves can well be the a problem if you're not careful.
What is the most valuable thing you have ever given away?
Ever given away? Hey, whoa, hey. Look, I'm very committed. So, along with being an entrepreneur, I'm very committed to my family. I've got a wife and 3 children, and so I think, from a very personal perspective, the commitment to work as a team with my wife and then raise a family is the one thing that I'm not really answering your question very well, Patience, because I haven't really given anything in that sense. I've received, but my commitment to marriage and to building a family together is one thing that I feel very strongly about. To answer your question from a professional perspective, I think this book that I've just written called Culture is Everything, which explains the secrets to building a great place to work, that we've engaged and used at the Physio Co to become one of Australia's best places to work. I think that is one of the most valuable things that I've ever given away in terms of publishing, because I'm so passionate about the world needs more great places to work, and I think this blueprint that is in this book is something that's very valuable that is now available.
Well, don't you think the time you spent in the nursing homes with Marjorie and George is not a valuable thing that you're giving away?
Of course it is, Patience. Patience, you ask very good questions, because as a leader and entrepreneur, I'm always looking ahead at the next big thing, and you keep it very grounded into the important things of this. So thank you. Of course, that is something very valuable.
Okay, let's talk about your book, Courage is Everything. Tell us more about it and how we can use it to help us in our journey.
Sure. So the book is called Culture is Everything, and the subtitle is The Story and System of a Startup that Became Australia's Best Place to Work. And so the Physio Co, the business we've been talking about, has for the last 8 years been ranked as one of the top 50 places to work in Australia. And there are 2 reasons as to why we've been committed to building a really strong place to work at the Physio Co. One is that I think it's the right thing to do. I think that if I'm going to work it is with other people, employ them, I've got an absolute responsibility to creating a caring, trustful and respectful workplace. And the second reason is that it is strategic in that we touched on earlier that it is not easy to find great employees who want to work with older people, but by creating a strong workplace and a great culture that is rewarded, then it makes it more attractive for people to come and work in that environment. That is the background as to why we've been committed to building a great place to work. And then at a point in time, people started asking me, Tristan, how do you do it? How do you build a strong culture? And I would answer their question in a long, hard to understand way, because I hadn't clarified the steps in my own mind. And so this book project has been something to really clarify the steps, and we've broken it down into the 4 secrets of building a great place to work is the content of the book, and it even comes with a 19-step checklist as to the steps that the Physio Co has been using to build a great place to work, and that I've learned over the years, and that I would love people to use, consider, fine-tune it to their own needs, but that is the content of the book.
Okay, is this book, can everyone pick up this book and use it, or is this for the book for the people who are looking into be in the healthcare industry? No,
it can be applied to any industry. Patients, yes. So the book does tell the story of the Physio Co, which is a healthcare business. But this same approach has been used in an aviation business, in a training business, in a financial planning business, and or even in a construction business. So the model can work, but the way it's implemented will just need to be tailored to the individual business. Okay.
What are the secrets to building a strong culture?
So, Patience, the 4 steps in the book and the 4 secrets to building a great place to work is firstly discover the core. And in the section of discover the core, we're talking about a really clear core purpose as to why the business exists, and then a succinct set of core values to really define the behaviours of the people within the organisation. And so you've heard me say that the Physio Co exists to help seniors stay mobile, safe and happy. That is the core purpose of the Physio Co. And with that core foundation of a core purpose, we know that we exist to help seniors stay mobile, safe and happy. We don't exist to help sports people or younger people or anything like that. And so when people come with ideas or we have opportunities, we filter it through our core purpose, both customer opportunities and also employees and team members, and we make sure that everything we do is filtered through that core purpose and that core. So the first step is discover the core. The next step is document the future, and this document the future is about having a very clear vision, and I think a clear vision needs to be in two parts. I think you need to have a long-term vision. Jim Collins, in his famous book Good to Great, talked about the concept of a big, hairy, audacious goal, which is a 10 to 30 year goal that an organisation is working towards to do something really great in the world. 10 to 30 years is a very long time, and so I personally have chosen the 10-year end of that range, and so I think a business needs to have a 10-year goal. And at the Physio Co, we've got a 10-year obsession or 10-year goal to deliver 2 million consultations to Australian seniors, and that's what we're growing towards. By the same token, patients, 10 years is too long for most team members to be able to focus on and see themselves into the future. So we also break it down into what we call a 3-year painted picture vision, and that is what our business will look like in 3 years' time. And we have a number. So we set the 10-year vision, we break it into 3-year steps, and then we publish the 3-year vision, and we obsess over bringing that 3-year steps to life. We celebrate the milestones along the way, and then we release the next 3-year vision to bring everyone along on the journey with us. And so that's step 2 of the 4 secrets, is to document the future. The third secret of building a great place to work is called execute relentlessly, and this one, patient, is about discover the core first, document the future, and then when you've got the systems in place to make sure that you are focused on the future, you have to execute over and over and over again in a relentless way. And I think this is the bit that entrepreneurs, and myself included, often get lost in, is because we're either continuously fighting fires and working with day-to-day challenges in our business, or we get distracted by other shiny objects and shiny opportunities that come towards us. But unless we execute relentlessly over and over again, we never see that vision coming to life. And the fourth secret is something that I call show more love. And that's about showing more love to your customers, to your clients, to your teammates, and to everyone around you in your extended community. And I say that from a learning position, and that there was a job time a few years ago when I had this wonderful team of people I worked with, and I felt as if they were turning up and doing their job, but not necessarily doing it with the amount of energy and passion and love that they could have. And I reflected on that, and I thought, why is this happening? And the only answer I could come up with was they're not showing more love to their clients and their work because their work is not showing more love to them. And so I understood that I needed to care for and love and show my appreciation to our team members, so that then they would reciprocate and do the same for their work. And so the show more love part of the 4 secrets has some small ways to do that, including making sure that you acknowledge the important times in people's lives. A handwritten note or a birthday card, a handwritten note to celebrate the anniversaries of when people have been working with you for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. The understanding that people have ups and downs in their lives, and respectful and caring around the ups and downs in people's lives is the way that we can execute on the show more love part of the Culture is Everything system. So to answer your question, patients, discover the core, document the future, execute relentlessly, and show more love are the 4 parts of the Culture is Everything system.
Okay. What hasn't worked in building a strong culture, Tristan?
Fantastic question, patients. Thank you for asking. One of the most biggest learnings for me, and this might already be obvious to you, patients, and already obvious to other people, but I had this idea that my team, the group of people I work with, would all exist in what would be one obvious group, one obviously culture, and we would do things together. And we do have a very strong culture, and it's based upon the principles I've just spoken about, including the core purpose and the core values. However, a long time ago, I used to put on some events, and on a Friday night, I would put on some drinks, and I'd say we call it First Round Fridays, and come in after work, have a drink, a beer or a wine or whatever a soft drink, whatever you chose, and about half a dozen people would come of the 20-person team, and I'd be devastated. I'd wonder why why aren't these people coming? And then we'd put on an event on a Sunday. It might be a fun run or a picnic or something more family oriented, and we'd get a small group of families coming, but the younger crew wouldn't arrive, and the younger guys obviously would turn up to the Friday night drinks. And the learning was, patients, that there are subcultures within any team and any business, and what the subcultures, what the family people want to do at the end of a week is not go out for a drink. They want to re-engage with their family. What the younger crew want to do on a Sunday morning is not get up early and go for a run because they're still recovering from the night before. And so patients, the idea was, there in any culture there are many subcultures, and the importance is that you embrace and support and encourage those subcultures to connect and work well together with people that have got some similar interests. Is one of the important learnings of building a strong culture.
Wow. Okay, where do we find this book? I hear you are now the number one on Amazon. So where do we find this book? Do you use it? And where do we find you if we want any advice? Are you just in Australia only? Are you not coming to UK or another countries?
Yeah, I will be in the UK later. I'm in the US later this year, and I'm heading to the UK early in 2018 as well. So look out for me there. But
do you have the date for UK?
No, it's still being confirmed at the moment. So I'll let you know when I know the date, patients.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. The book is available on Amazon, and the best place on the web to find me is my personal website, which is tristanwhite.com.au, because I'm down here in Australia. tristanwhite.com.au, where you'll find a whole heap of blog posts as well as a free download of chapter 1 of this book if you'd like to check it out before you consider buying it.
Okay. So, Clan, there will be more from Tristan in a moment. If you are finding Tristan's journey interesting and you are ready to hear more, come and listen to the full version of the interview at onlinesuccessjourney.com. If you are on Online Success Journey already, click on part 2 of Tristan's journey and you'll get lots of tips to help you with your own business venture, or your own, if you want to be in a sports business or in a healthcare business. Grab his book on Amazon and you'll get more tips from him as well. And don't forget, you can access all other online success interviews podcasts on the site as well. That's a wrap, Clan. Remember, success is a journey. Patience and Tristan.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to part 1 and want to be sure you know there is a second part to this and every journey podcast at onlinesuccessjourney.com, filled with even more success tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. There are dozens of episodes only available to the members of the Online Success Journey clan. Check out the website and click on Join the Clan for more information. Patience would like to thank you for listening to this podcast, and she has a free audio gift for you at her website. Go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for instant access to this gift. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps each of us chart our own path, so make sure you're subscribed to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and to listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review it at Stitcher and other sites by clicking the stars or completing the ratings form, by clicking thumbs up and leaving a comment on YouTube, or liking and sharing the podcast on social media. To review the podcast within iTunes, simply open iTunes to the podcast, click on Ratings and Reviews, then write a review. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.